was something that a lot of people did not want to accept, and a lot of people looked for ways to get their heads around the idea that he could not have been as good as he was. He could not have achieved at this level. And part of that, and part of trying to knock him down, was to other him in every way possible, including ways that depended on traditional and old and ancient stereotypes. And so that was everything from trying to say that he was not legitimate, he was not born here, that on his birth certificate it may say, Donald Trump said this, may say that he's a Muslim. That's a lie. That he may not have gone to Colombia as he suggests and did well. Donald Trump also said that people there said they never saw him. That was a lie. That he may not have even written his best-selling book, because as Donald Trump said, it read like Hemingway and it must have been written by Bill Ayers, a white man. That was a lie. But everything about him, they tried to attack and say that there is no way that this person, that we may have kind of philosophical, political differences with, no way that this person could actually be as good as he appears to be. And that became the racist linchpin in this argument.
But the Trump campaign has tried to deny over and over that this had anything to do with, the birtherism had anything to do with racism. But when you think about what else could it be, because essentially, as we were saying, he's asking for his paper.
That's the thing about truth, right? It actually doesn't require your affirmation. It doesn't require your blessing. It doesn't require you to agree with it. It actually is the truth. And I don't need you to believe me when I tell you that you are saying something that is racist, because I understand that it is. And I understand enough about history. I understand enough about traditional stereotypes. I understand enough about human motivations to understand that this has a racial underpinning.
Michael, to you first. Even after the president produced his long-form birth certificate, which was an embarrassment for a lot of people, that, you know, they couldn't believe that this was happening, Donald Trump continued with his birther theories. What does he get out of trying to delegitimize the first African-American president of the United States?
Well, I think what he's trying to get, and what he has done throughout this campaign, is to inject racism into it, to inject the issue of race. You don't have to say specifically racist epithets to inject the issue of race. And that's what he did with the birther movement, and that's what he's done throughout his presidential campaign. If you remember, the first thing he did when he announced for president was to talk about building a wall, stopping Mexicans from coming in, because he said that they were rapists and criminals. He then talked about stopping Muslims. And then, of course, when David Duke announced his support, an avowed racist, Trump refused to reject that support. And so race has always been something that has been underlying Trump's campaign, and the fact that he denies it doesn't really make a difference.
Michael, and after he did disavow David Duke, after people believe he was forced to, it was in the same sort of sentiment that he did today with the birther movement. I disavow, and almost sounding like, there, you're happy, I did it. Part of that is the way he goes about doing it once he has in some way, you know, admitted that there was an issue somewhere, but not really apologizing.
This is what Trump does, and let's be clear. Trump was dead wrong on this birtherism issue. President Obama was born in the United States, his birth certificate said so, and that made him a citizen by birth. So Trump was dead wrong. Now today, after several years and continuing to assert that even the birth certificate was fraudulent somehow, now Trump comes out and says, well, he was born in the United States. That's just unacceptable. Trump must go further. He must apologize. Look, I'm a professor. Trump tried to get credit today for bringing up the issue to the American people. When my students bring up an issue and they're wrong, they don't get credit. They only get credit when they bring up the issue and they're right. So Trump was wrong here. Not only does he need to say he was wrong, but he needs to apologize to President Obama and to the American people. The people need to have disdain for what Trump has done, for injecting this type of racial innuendo into the discussion for president.
Something else I noticed, Charles, and that we've talked about it, the people who have racist tendencies are now calling people who talk about issues like this racist as a projection or a deflection. What's going on here?
I mean, people need to be affirmed in their own belief system. They want to believe that what they're believing is right.
Because when we get off the air, the social media is going to say we're racist for having this
and I will give like two flips of a coin
exactly
when that happens, because I really don't care if I hurt your feelings.
Right.
Because racism is a fact of life in America. There are a lot of racist people in America, people who understand that they're racist, people who don't register that they're racist. It's kind of subconscious for them, and we're all acting out in this big gumbo of race and prejudice and biases and all that's happening all around us. And that is just a fact. And so when it happens, it's real. And just because I bring it up does not mean that means you're race baiting because you brought up the issue of race. And therefore, that makes you the person who's talking about race, and that makes you your racial problem in the issue. This issue with Donald Trump is absolutely racist, no matter what they want to argue about bringing it up and who started it and whatever. In fact, there's no sign that Hillary Clinton was involved in starting this whatsoever. Donald Trump became the grand wizard of birtherism. That is simply a fact. And until he takes ownership of that, until he apologizes, like the professor said, and what you do with an apology, it's not necessarily you doing it for the other person. That is a moral character issue. You are doing that because you are wrong, and the moral character in you says that I have to do this because I was wrong and to set my own spirit right. If the other person accepts the apology, that's up to them. You need to do this because it is right to do.
How do you think that this is you mentioned, Charles, that he is called the president a Muslim. You talked about what he said with his college records. This is how Donald Trump came to the fore, at least politically. I was looking at an interview that I did with him in 2011, and it sounded exactly the same when we talked about the birther movement. How do you think that this is affecting the campaign now? Do you think that this will hurt him?
I mean, it's to be seen. I never try to predict what's going to happen in the polls. I don't know exactly how to ripple out, but I do believe that it brings up this issue in a way that some people have forgotten about. I had forgotten about how many different ways he had attacked the president's credibility and tried to defame him during that period, until I went back today and read over it, and it kind of grossed me out. It was so much, it was so deep, it was so in the sewer. And I think that just by bringing the subject up and having people having to go back through that again is going to hurt him some.
I think they thought they were going to get this issue behind them, but we're not so sure again. Who can predict anything in this particular election? Michael, today members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they really went after Donald Trump, harshly criticized him for his comments and lack of an apology and lack of sincerity about it. He thought that he was ending the birther discussion today. Is he, in fact, has he reignited the issue?
I think he has reignited it, and certainly I think members of the Congressional Black Caucus and many Americans of all colors are not going to let this go. They're not going to let him simply say, okay, I say President Obama was born in the U.S. and that's it, now let's move on. No, we're not going to move on, because not only is an apology warranted, but this election is a battle for America's racial soul. Trump has injected race into this, and Americans can't let this go. This election is crucial, and so when you start to look at not only the policies and practices that candidate Trump is espousing, this is going to be really problematic to equality in our country. If some of these things that Trump wants to do are actually become law and policy, it's going to have a very detrimental effect. America is not going to be the great melting pot. America is not going to be able to live up to the meaning of its creed that all are created equal if we don't get Hillary Clinton elected, and if we don't make sure that we initiate new policies and practices that are going to guarantee equality for all Americans.
Michael, Charles, thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Just ahead, what Trump is saying tonight about Hillary Clinton's security detail.